everyone.
Hi everyone. Are we gonna talk about it today?
Yes, today we're going to go to the juicy stuff and shock our church and etc. etc. But
The
let's
days
be
we
real.
backslid, and
Yes.
the
Can you
reasons
believe that
why.
ordained pastors can backslide?
Yeah, we did. I never thought it would happen, but it did happen.
Yeah.
And today I'm just so grateful that God had mercy and brought us through. But you know what? When you backslide, there's a huge price to pay, and we paid a price, and unfortunately, our children paid a huge price as well.
For our mistakes.
Yeah.
So the story carries on that we moved from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg, myself in July of 2005, and Mandy at the beginning of 2006. So 2005 was fine. 2006 they arrive here. We start looking for business opportunities. Instead of ministry opportunities, we look for business opportunities. You were teaching at the Bible school that year.
Yes.
You wrote that wonderful curriculum.
A bit
you
of
were
Old
teaching.
Testament history for Dr. Arthur Frost for the Bible college he was running at that stage. And I used to travel to Pretoria.
Yes,
and
at
back.
even the word you
But yeah, and it was a tough time. It was emotionally for me, it was a really tough time because we were traveling once a month through to Port Elizabeth to make sure the church was running and functioning properly, and we were trying to be all good there, but we were still hurt and broken ourselves from the loss of friends that had happened and covering that had happened that we had at that stage.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult time.
So although we believed very much in fathering, we were fatherless, and we didn't quite know what to do with people that were really upset with us and really hurting us. And I remember the pastor from Levende Woord ministering to us and said to us, just duck your head and let the bullets fly and don't let it affect you.
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done.
Yeah, it was a tough time because your heart is broken and you're disillusioned with church and church leadership, and you can't believe
Yes.
things like this could happen. And
people that had been lifelong friends suddenly discarded us and made all kinds of false claims against us. It was crazy.
It was crazy hard, and it broke my heart.
We don't deny that a lot of it was our own fault on how we approached things, but the end result was that we were hurting and we were taking strain. So in this hurt time, in 2006, I have an opportunity to start a business in owning an excavator and some tipper trucks, TLBs, and deliver for people. And I remember the very day, myself and a friend each put in some money from our house that we sold in Port Elizabeth. We took a big amount and we put into this new business, and it just looked so rosy. This new contract was given to us on a platter before we even had the vehicles to deliver it. So we bought the vehicles on debt to fulfill this contract. And it wasn't long, but let me go back to the day that our first yellow machine, our first excavator was approved. I was on the bus on my way to a game farm. Now I, as a pastor, never touched any alcohol. I was totally a teetotaler. But I'm in this bus and I get the phone call from the bank that the vehicle is approved. And somebody hands me a glass and says, well, you must celebrate this moment. So now all the ideas of holiness, all the ideas of a pastor, all the ideas go out the window, and I start celebrating with drinking. And if you're 40 years old and you've never really drunk, then by the time you get to Tabazimbi, it's a mess. It's an embarrassment, and you falling around and breaking stuff as you fall, and it's just a total mess. And everybody's laughing at the pastor who is drunk, and the more they laugh, the more I drink, and the more I throw away my testimony. And yes, that started on the one hand, a very successful business. On the other hand, regular drinking. Now and again, I'd come home in the morning while Mandy is busy reversing the car out to take the kids to the school. And yeah, it was a mess.
It was a mess. I hated every moment of it. I tried to correct him the whole time. But myself, I was hurting. And when the hurt got too much, guess what? I began to drink as well. And I did it a little bit more subtly than you. But the hurt was great and it broke my heart. And we became so frustrated with each other. Our children were disillusioned. It was very hard for them.
Whenever I got drunk, then dronkverdriet would step in, and depression and suicidal thoughts and horrible things. And I was struggling to cope with life and the pressure of Joburg. Joburg seemed such fun, and I loved the vibe, and the business is working, and I'm having business meals and things. But I am not alcoholic, but it is my crutch for a conversation. It's my crutch to make things work.
Yeah.
And
it was my escape. I didn't want to face God. I didn't want to forgive where I'd been hurt. I didn't want to deal with certain things.
So the church that we were going to in Pretoria goes through a split. Then they eventually closed the church that split off and went off to the Eastern Cape.
And then we went to another church, but wherever we went,
there was chaos.
There was chaos because also what happened was the pastors we had served under, the pastor we had served under, felt it was his job to hunt us down wherever we went and to say every bad thing to us at whichever church we were at, to the leadership. But ugly stuff, I'm talking about really wicked stuff that wasn't true. And eventually I didn't want to go to church, I didn't want to know church, but you still somehow still...
I wanted to go to church, I wanted to fix up, but 6 days a week I was my own boss, and then on the 7th day I tried to be holy and tried to do what God wants and thought it was okay, and you just lie to yourself, and that was the big lack in our lives then, was a spiritual father.
Yeah, and you always feel guilty.
Yes.
It's a continual guilt, and I didn't like living like that, and it put pressure on our marriage.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would arrive home, park the bucky, get out of my car, get in the car that she's taking the children to school, and it's absolutely icy in the car. There's not a word spoken. I must give my wife credit that she didn't moan. She was trying to drag me with in a spiritual way, but I see now often the wives trying to be spiritual while the men are struggling. And I want to say, men, man up, take your place, let go of the stuff that's pulling you down. You don't need it. Let it go and operate under what God's got for you.
It was a tough time.
Shall I talk a little bit about business?
Yeah, let me just